something cheerful here. Let's do that because we deserve to do that. Hey, Lindsay, welcome everyone to our Success Mastermind here for Thursday, the 6th of January, 2022. John Lavenia here with you.
Cheerful here.
And I am excited to have a little conversation with everybody today. Boy, we had a packed day yesterday with Books for Britain, where they're studying over in England, they're studying The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. We're, of course, on to our next book with Neville, who I'm going to talk about here a little bit today as well. And we did not have life and business tools. Adrian was feeling under the weather, so sending well wishes to Adrian. But we did have Networking Magic last night. I was not able to attend because I am still setting up my house. Oh my goodness. I guess that's a good problem, right? You've got, right? There's other problems that I could have. I don't have those problems. So I've got these problems. These are better problems, which brings me to what I want to talk about today with those of you who are tuning in live and those of you who may see this later on a recording or on YouTube, because we're broadcasting. Hi, you guys. And that is something that has come up for me several times out of the book that we're reading right now, which is a Neville book. This is The Law and the Promise that we're into in our book study group. By the way, even if you're not a actual member of the Mastermind group, we do open that up to the public. If you're into, books on philosophy and entrepreneurship and all that, jlsuccessmastermind.com/books, jlsuccessmastermind.com/books, and you can get on the list and tune into and participate in our book study group. I think a lot more people probably should, right? We could use some resourceful thinking these days, and we tend to read from some of the most profound authors that I've at least confronted. By Monday, I will have an office. All right, so just keep dealing with this for now. Thank you for your patience on my lack of aesthetics. But something that Neville talks about, not just in this book, The Law and the Promise, but I've read Awakened Imagination. I've read Seed Time and Harvest. Neville was an interesting guy who had perspectives. I would say a more absolute perspective on correct application of Scripture, or a specific application of it. And the thing that he keeps coming back to, one of the concepts that he keeps coming back to, is that there's a big difference between thinking of what you want, like thinking of the end result, thinking of, just like you would think of something in the past, which isn't your experience right now. Right? I'm thinking of that time when I did the thing. Okay, fine. I'm thinking of it. Okay. And I can also think of the future. I can think of, and it's nice to do, right? To postulate, future successes. And I think what a lot of people do is they fixate their attention on the losses of the past, and then they postulate losses in the future. That's a problem, right? But in both of those scenarios where we're thinking of something. But what Neville says is to think from, not of, but from. To live in the end, to think from the end. And from that position, as that person, you've got your postulates and your doing this and whatever you're doing now, but you're doing it from the position of the person who accomplishes that already. Now, this all comes down to a 3-word philosophy, which we've talked about multiple times: be, do, and have. Be, do, have, in that order. Be, do, have. If I'm thinking from the end, if I'm living in the end, if I'm being that emotionally, physiologically, spiritually, etc., the only thing I lack in that moment would be the physical havingness of, whatever the fruits are. But I'm already that guy. And in fact, I have to be that guy. I remember a time when I was newer in business, and I was talking to one of my mentors about what I should do. Now, in this sort of a business, there were people who were, I suppose, newer than me, who I wanted to serve. This was a direct sales network marketing kind of a business. And I had, in a few months, gotten up to around $40,000 a month with it. And other people were not doing that. And I didn't want to neglect these people. So I said to my mentor, is there something I should be putting my attention on? I mean, I'm just doing what I was shown to do, and I do it very thoroughly, and I love it, and I'm excelling. I'm doing great. But these other people, is there something that am I not mentoring them correctly or something? And he said, John, how are you going to show up? How are you going to manage your group when you've got 5,000 people? He said, are you going to hold hands and babysit people and everything? Is that what you're going to do when you got 5,000 people? Like you're thinking you should be doing that now? Is that what you're going to do when you have that many people? No, of course I won't be able to. He said, well, you never will have 5,000 people in your group if you don't start being the person and doing what that person does. So for me, this was a profound idea, because I was looking at current circumstances and thinking, well, is there something more I could be, which is noble, right? I want to help people and all that. Okay. The punchline for all this, of course, as it relates to that business environment, that networking type environment, is that the best thing I could do for these others is to go make as much money as I can as fast as I can. That was the best mentoring I could give them, because then I set an example. Here's a demonstration, and now if you're willing to do what I'm doing, here's what I'm doing. Here's how it's working. Now you don't have to hope. Oh, I hope this works. Oh, I wonder if anybody makes money with this. Look at the friggin' stats. There it is, right? So that's the best thing I could do. All the training was already there. I didn't need to train them on anything. Go make as much money as you can as fast as you can. That's how you'll help your people, whether it's 50 or 5,000 people. But being that now, that's what it comes down to, which is a big shift for a lot of people, because, appearances are seductive, and this is my lot. And, I got to solve these current present time problems, and that's all good and valid. But if you think about the neurosis that comes with that, and you've probably recognized for yourself at various times in life, where you've been stuck in the thick of thin things, as Steve Covey would say, the thick of thin things, lots of urgencies, lots of ankle biting, little stuff. But is it getting you where you want to go? In other words, if you were that person who had achieved the heights that you intend, would you even have attention on these things? Glenn posed a question yesterday, which is sort of a different angle on something we took up on Monday, I believe it was. And the question was, where does your time go? And are these worthy uses of your time? So you get to assess for yourself, is this something good and right? And if we're willing to look and we can have some data about that, we can sometimes say, no, you know what, I'm going to reallocate, I'm going to reappropriate time. And so in the same way, if we look at the things that encumber our attention, and you only have so much attention each day, and you will spend it somewhere. You can't save it. There's no compound interest. You will spend it. If we look at that, and we look at the quality of the questions that we entertain, are they the quality of questions that we would entertain once we've achieved what, if we're living in the end, if we're thinking from the end? Are those same quality of questions? It was some, I think, Confucianist philosopher that talked about you'll recognize the depth of your wisdom by the quality of your questions, or those questions that you entertain, something like that. I'm chopping it up pretty bad, but you get the idea, right? What's for lunch is a pretty mundane question, unless you're at that level. Some of you have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So kind of like a hierarchy or a pyramid, right? So yeah, if you're starving, then yeah, that's about as profound of a question as you can come up with at that point, right? So assuming that these basic survival needs, air, food, water, shelter, right? Assuming that those are in place, well, now we're getting above, basic needs. Now we're getting into more of what effect am I having? What purpose am I serving here? And I think for myself, and this is something for 2022 and just for life, but since it's 2022, I'll take every advantage I can get. Now that it's 2022, wow, you know what? How can I think bigger and play bigger and be bigger than I was for the previous, couple of decades or however long, or last year? How can I do that? And so when I think about that, I think about the comfort zone, okay, the comfort zone of familiarity. And when I'm looking at, what I'm expecting of myself, I can make money and survive and run businesses and all that. But is that it? Do I just do that until, I retire or something? Or do I do something really profound? Now, I know some of you here have gone in new directions, not just this past week, 2022, but like Virginia wrote a book last year and it sold many copies, right? Glenn wrote a book. Who else? We've got Lindsay, right, who's doing big things and scaling up her efforts. Okay, but a lot of these things that, well, take Missy for an example. Missy has and I'm just looking at the people who are here right now to pull examples. Missy has deliberately engaged in multiple new activities due to, I would say, here's how that comes about, due to having assigned herself a bigger purpose or rekindled some purpose. In other words, raising the bar on who she expects herself to be, and therefore attracted, here are methods, things that you could do, right? Which you may not have considered last week, last year, whenever it was, because you were thinking small, being small. You were being small. Okay. So now you're being bigger. So that means what? You're doing bigger, and then you'll have bigger. I think the folly with all this comes when we slide back into familiarity, because it's familiar, because it's comfortable. Oh, it's just little old me. Well, I'm not doing that bad. Okay, got it. But our standards, see, I think that's the thing, and I'm pulling from a lot of different authors today. Our standards are based on our innermost belief about who we are, our self-image. Maxwell Maltz, psychocybernetics, self-image psychology. Here's the autopilot. And so I may have a moment. This is it, guys. I got it. Here it is. I may have a moment of clarity about who I really am in a bigger sense. I guess if we got to who I really, really, really am, I am, and then that's it. And I guess I'd be a cloud of smoke or something and a scintillating, spirit. But considering that I'm stuck in a body on a planet, then all right. So then a bigger idea in a moment of clarity of who I am. And sometimes that's all you get is a moment. But if I make decisions in that moment of clarity, not, things that I can waver on, actual decisions. And then I'm like, as that person, now that I've meditated on it and wow, I saw it. I saw the end. I saw the triumph. I make decisions, bigger decisions as that bigger person in that moment of clarity. And then that moment fades and appearances impinge upon me, but I don't waver from that decision. And it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's uncomfortable. That's the folly right there. Well, I'm not doing too bad after all. I mean, that was a nice idea. That big idea, that was nice. Maybe next year, a week is already gone. So maybe next year. Now, the other side of this might be, well, I'm not sure. What is this big me? Well, I'm not sure. Well, then I guess in that case, you're going to have to sit and get quiet. By the way, I've done this. I went to an ashram in South Fallsburg, New York, Sri Muktananda Ashram. Missy, you could probably drive there, in the Catskills, right? And I sat there and I shut my friggin' mouth for a day, right? And there's the swamis running around and, the other seekers, right? Meditating and chanting and all this. I'm walking in the garden where they have some beautiful statues, by the way. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Siddha Yoga, which is a Hindu lineage. But they're very into, nature and also Christianity, right? There's a beautiful statue of Jesus in there. They call him the master, right? So here's a guy who like really did it. He really, really did it. So and I'm walking through the gardens and all this, and I was after having been quiet for a while, I went back to something I read from Steve Covey in the 7 Habits, which is roles and goals. Okay, so being proactive, first habit of highly effective people, having goals and having roles, right? And then putting first things first and all the other habits. But I actually wrote out while I was in this place. I actually took inventory from that quiet place, nothing to impinge upon me. Who are you? And what are you doing? So here are my roles, and here are the goals for each of those roles. Oh, I'm a businessman. Okay, got it. Yeah, all right, thank you. All right, and well, what kind of business is this? And what kind of production do you create? And I wrote all that out, right? Oh, I'm at the time I was not married, so I'm a loving friend, a boyfriend, right? Oh, great, right, all that out. And I wrote these things out. An individual. I'm an individual. So what does that mean? Well, I've got goals for that too, physical fitness, and so these are different aspects of livingness, of doing what we're doing here. And so, in clarity, I wrote that stuff out, and I actually created I'm sure I've got it here in one of these boxes. I got a mission statement. Again, this is very Covey-esque, right? You can do this for individuals, you can do this for families, you can do this for business organizations. You actually write out your mission statement. Like why are we here? What are we doing here, right? As a reminder. And then under the statement, there were the roles. Here's all the things that you are as it relates to this mission. So this isn't something that took 15 minutes, guys. This was like a day and a half. And that was probably pretty fast. And there's, again, in that environment, there's no phones or, hey, I've got a question. Hey, you got a minute? Check your inbox. No, none of that. None of that. Okay. I actually had a similar experience, although it was with a group, when I was rafting on the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon. So the Colorado River had cut the Grand Canyon, obviously. And the Grand Canyon, there's nothing, electricity, nothing. Now we were with a group of, professional rafting tour guide and everything. And they had one of the, I guess the administrative raft was loaded with all the food and the cookware. And we ate really good, right? We would pull over at night, hit one of the little beach areas, right? A little sandy area on the riverbank, and they'd set up camp and they'd cook. Oh man, great experience. It's about $1,500 a person for the 5-day trip. And then you hike out the Bright Angel Trail, and it was awesome. So keep that in mind. You got to be at least 12 years old. So I don't know if everybody here qualifies, but my daughter will qualify next year, and she can't wait to do it. But that was I wouldn't say a meditative experience in the way that here I am sitting in an ashram or something, but at night with no electricity, nothing but you and the wilds and the stars and the Milky Way and the canyon walls. By the way, the Grand Canyon is 10 times better from the river than it is from the rim. People go to the Grand Canyon, they stand at the rim, they look in, oh, huge, behold, the big rocks, that's amazing. Go down to the river and look up. Yeah, that's the Grand Canyon. So, but I got to be quiet. I got to be quiet there. And in that quiet, I found different aspects of myself that were already there, of course, But I think when we get into the real core of who we are, what we're doing, what we want to be, do, and have, we get to the real core of that. It's already there, but I think a lot of times it's buried under all of the other urgencies, influences, all the other stuff, this mountain of stuff on top of Lindsay. Here's Lindsay, right? And here's this mountain of stuff on top of her, right? So when we get quiet, we're just taking the stuff off. We can see a little bit of light. Anybody seen or read The Hobbit? H.R. Tolkien, right? The Hobbit. There's one part in the story where the dwarves are going through Mirkwood Forest, and it's thick with cover. You can't see. It's dark. There's no wind. They can't tell what direction they're going in. They're getting lost on the trail. And Bilbo Baggins, the Hobbit guy, climbs the highest tree and gets into and sees the sky, and can see the sun, can see what direction he's going, can see the mountain they're looking to get to, right? And all these butterflies are all around him, and it's sunny. Down in the forest, down on the floor, it's dark and dingy and spiders and yeah, but up above the canopy, right? So I think that's the experience a lot of us deserve to have. And look, this is something in the busyness of life, and I know I'm just kind of going around and around here, but in the busyness of life, when do you take time? Maybe this is the punchline for all this. When do you take time to actually do that? Like a retreat, and sometimes people actually go on like a spiritual retreat or something. I suppose that's what I did. It was not formal or anything. I'm just going to drive to South Fallsburg, New York, and I go sit in an ashram. I'm going to, chant Om Namah Shivaya and, hang out with the swamis, man. And hey, freaking do it. And, but when do you do that? Are you waiting for like some more congenial circumstances or something? You don't have to go to an ashram. I'm just saying. I mean, you can go to a local church or something. I think churches are open 24 hours a day, right? Or temple or whatever. No, they used to be. You just walk right in, sit there and be quiet, right? Do some holy water or something. Yeah, I mean, when do you do that? I would say, and again, this is just my, I guess from my upbringing or whatever, is that probably the least I don't want to say peaceful time, but the least quiet time would be during, Sunday Mass or something. That would not be the time to do this. But when you get to a place where and you can cause this for yourself, where you just find a place where nothing else can impinge upon you, and you get really clear about who you are, where you're going, what you're doing, without anything else clouding that, without this mountain of stuff on top of who you really are. Wow. And in that clarity, in that moment, or maybe even a few moments of clarity, you can make some tremendous progress. Now, here's the thing that Neville talked about, thinking from the end. So in that clear space, okay, if you can feel the emotions of what it's actually like to live that, and then write that down. So yes, there's roles and goals and purposes and all this, and visions and missions, okay? But what does it feel like in that spot? That serenity, that gratitude, that feeling of accomplishment, certainty, confidence, exhilaration, liberation. I don't know, pick whatever words are most powerful for you. And then if you take those words and include them in your goal statement, like a goal card, which we've all been instructed to do, right? To always have in mind and read multiple times. First thing you wake up in the morning, last thing at night, read your goals, right? But to include in there, I am so happy, grateful, confident, whatever the words are for you. Now that and then recite. Here are the details that I saw. I saw it. Right. So like Ivier was talking about on Tuesday, what do you see for 2022? And she used see was in quotes, right? If you go back into the archive 2 days ago, you'll see there's the recording. Okay, but the idea of seeing is more than visual or mind pictures. It's a complete physiology kind of a thing. You got many different perceptics, many different things that you could perceive in addition to just seeing what the end looks like. What does it feel like? I think that's the bigger question. What does it feel like now that you've already arrived, now that you've already got it? And then just operate from that place, And so that's why I would say like consistency, like what we do with our daily routines. which are another form of a comfort zone, and they're a good one, right? Habits and get up, quiet time, exercise, all that. That's great. Okay, study, but that's why consistency is so important with this. And I have not been. I've been moving, right? I just got a chair. I got my chair, guys. I've been hosting standing up. Missy, you've got the light behind you. It's like a glowing, like you're radiant. Yeah, you shouldn't have moved. That was like perfect. That was like Missy with all the sun rays coming out of her. It was so auspicious. Yes. Anyway, so here's the instructions. It's basically what Napoleon Hill said to do on Think and Grow Rich. Right? It's that in the chapter on desire, chapter 2, where he gave us those things. You actually do those things. I'm going to go ahead and pull that book up here real quick, and then I'd love to hear from anybody else who's got some thoughts on this. So I'm going to grab an ebook right now. Think and Grow Rich. Here we go. Hoi, 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 hoi. Let me share my screen. And you will see. We'll see. So this is in chapter 2. Chapter 2. Thoughts of things. No. Sorry, guys. This probably doesn't look nice to look at on my screen as I do this.
Where'd you get the PDF? Do we have access to that?
Oh yeah, I can send it to you right now. This is the mass market version. It's not the original text.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, when we did our book study group, here it is, right here. We did our book study group. It was we used the original text, which you can get on Kindle for like $7 or whatever. All right, so here it is. The method by which desire for riches can be transmuted into its financial equivalent consists of 6 definite practical steps, viz., which means look. First, fix in your mind the exact amount of money you desire. Is not sufficient merely to say, I want plenty of money. Okay, first, be definite as to the amount. There's a psychological reason for definiteness, which will be described in a subsequent chapter. Second, determine exactly what you intend to give in return. Here's the doing this. Here's the exchange, right? You're working, you're doing, right, for the money you desire. There's no such reality as something for nothing. Third, establish a definite date when you intend to possess the money you desire. Fourth, create a definite plan for carrying out your desire. Here's part of your vision, all right? And begin at once, whether you are ready or not, to put this plan into action. Fifth, write out a clear, concise statement of the amount of money you intend to acquire. Name the time limit for its acquisition, state what you intend to give in return for the money, and describe clearly the plan through which you intend to accumulate it. The only thing this thing is missing right here is the emotions you ascribe to it. So we talk about seeing, right? He's talking about vising right here, viz, right? So see, well, what we should also do is perceive other perceptics with that. What is it? What is that experience? Because that's, I mean, every goal that we've got is an experiential goal. I want to experience ownership of that car, the driving of that car. I want to experience the physically fit body, the, whatever the experience is, right? Well, what does it feel like to have that experience? Experiencing is more than just looking at. So I feel so accomplished and happy and grateful now that I have, here's the exact amount of money, here's the date, and here's the actions that I've undertaken. See, I'm speaking about it as if it's done. I've undertaken these actions to deliver the best possible quality and quantity of service to my clients in such and such business, blah, blah, blah. You write this out in a concise statement that fits on a card. 6, read your written statement aloud twice daily, just once before retiring at night and once after arising in the morning. As you read, see, and feel and believe yourself already, thinking from the end, already in possession of the money. Already in possession from the end as that person. Too late to fail. I already got it. What does that feel like? Those are the instructions. And so the reason I would say to include some emotion words in this fifth step is because of this right here. Just reminders, because in that quiet state, when in that moment of clarity, when you get the experience of more than just, I'm thinking of it, but now I'm thinking from it. When you get that experience, there's going to be some emotions. Write down, what are those emotions? What are those emotions? Confidence, gratitude, right? Write them down. And then I would include them on the card. I've accomplished some good things and I've used these methods. So now you can do it. And some of you are already doing it. Anyway, I love you guys. I've been talking a half hour already. Any thoughts on this? Virginia, please.
What chapter was that on? Because I have to go back to my book.
Chapter 2, chapter on desire. Chapter 1 is thoughts or things. Chapter 2 is desire, the first step towards riches.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, did you want that PDF?
Yeah, that'd be great. I love having PDFs. And just since I'm talking already, let you know. You see, oh, it's not working. Anyway, I'm doing the A tracker.
Ah, lucky you.
Yeah. So, and I like how you explained that the first week will probably be screwed up.
Yeah.
Because you forget, like I've been apparently listening to a podcast for 11 hours and forgot to turn that off.
Right.
And then I actually went to sleep.
Yeah, don't rely on the first week. Just get to using it,
But I liked how you went through it. And somebody asked me about that the other day, and I told them you went through it on Friday, I think is when you did the actual how to use and to go back. Was that you, Missy? Go back and do it. And I've just got a million categories, but I'm trying to include I'm doing it on a 24 hours. Because that way, instead of just 8 a.m. or whatever, 7 a.m. till, a certain time, because I want to say, okay, when I went to sleep, because I stay up too late.
Okay.
And then how many hours of sleep I'm getting. And then don't be surprised if my mind's a fog because I'm trying to run on 4 or 5 hours of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm doing on that. But yeah, it's interesting. And I like how you can go back and fix the time and recorrect what it was and everything.
Sure. So that's kind of a pain to do that, but once you're in the habit of using it, you won't have to do that so much. First week is rough data. First week.
And I like just using it for maybe a month and then revisiting it every few months or something. And what I'm finding already is that I don't spend enough time on income producing activities.
Bam. Bam. All right. Well, there it is. Now you get to see it. Yeah. So isn't that beautiful? Yeah. No mysteries. I don't like mysteries. So.
So thank you. And then this was all great listening to everything you said today and the participation. And, if you don't know how to manage 5,000 people, you're not doing what they're doing, you're never going to be able to do it on there. So.
Right. Yeah. So be that now. And really, I guess what we were all just talking about here today is the whole idea of sharpening the saw, which is another Covey, habit, the 7th habit. So me showing up and being quiet for a day and taking inventory and, whatever, that's a sharpening the saw experience. Otherwise, I'm just rearranging. What did Neville say in the book we're reading? Rearranging, the idea comes up, rearranging chairs on the Titanic, right? So, put that one over there, put that one over there. I'm just working with the same stuff, right? I need to get the stuff away and then make some decisions, right? That's a sharpening of the saw type experience. So anyway, thank you guys. Anybody else got some thoughts on this? No? Yes, Missy?
Thank you. This was brilliantly presented. Very lovely as well. I have been having those moments of clarity, and I have acted on many. I had them for years and years and years. I didn't act on them because I didn't think I could. I'll do it when I'm better. I'll do it when it's not right. It's just God showing me something for the future. It's different now because of this group and so on. I don't believe that way anymore. But I am having, I don't know what to do. And I'm not asking for, I'm just putting it out there. I'm having appearances to the contrary. And they're physical appearances, which are concerning, but I don't want to give in because I almost feel like I'm not 3 feet from gold, like 2 inches from gold. And if I give in on this physiological thing, it might interfere. And I'm not explaining it very well. But it would involve going to a doctor I don't want to go to, having him put some kind of fear thing in my mind, which I already have, and I'm working on. I know the other night Stuart said he didn't believe that I could only kind of spend 1 minute believing I'm well or something. He said, Miss, I don't believe that, but it's the truth. So that's why I'm trying to work from the back end and say it worked through. But I don't know what to do when it's a physical appearance. But then I think of Napoleon Hill, and I think of his son. Not the poor kid not only had no ears, didn't have it on the inside as either. And that was at a time when Napoleon Hill wasn't talking to doctors who knew about everything that they know about today. Thank God. And they wouldn't even teach him sign language, and yet he heard. And that, if it wasn't for that example, I just don't know what to do. I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I'll tell you, as a funny aside, I went to my first, we go to the old Catholic Church before Vatican II. We call it the traditional Latin Mass. And after my dad died, I went to a retreat, the first one. I'm known in my church too for like a big one. And there's no talking. And I'm like, what do you mean there's no talking? And they're like, there's no talking. For 8 hours, there was no talking except for prayers. We did prayers. At first I went out of my mind. And then it's like you said with the Hobbit, like it opened up because it was forced on me. I knew there was going to be no talking, but I didn't think it was real. I thought you could still, I was trying at lunch. I'm like, oh, did you? They're like, no, it's not talking. And I'd never experienced anything like that because my mind is 100 billion miles an hour.
Oh, yeah.
And I did have this moment. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I thought I knew the answers to the universal. That's how much of an effect it had on me.
Yeah.
But I had to do the estate, so I couldn't maintain that kind of thing. But anyway, so that's where I am. The appearances to the contrary are stopping me dead in my tracks, and I don't know what to do, and I don't expect anybody else here to tell me because I haven't even explained it. But I'm not giving up, and that's basically it. I've just plopped my problem out there, and sorry everybody.
Well, no, Missy, we're not here to give advice. I think you may have the answer just in what we just talked about today. You had this great, spiritual experience by, being quiet for 8 hours, right? Maybe it's time for you to go do that. Maybe it's closer than you think.
That'll be tough in the meetings, but I'll
take
appointments. I know what
the weekend's coming. The weekend's coming. I don't know about the weather where you are, but
it's okay.
Some people go sit on the beach for half a day. Virginia, you have some thoughts?
I was just going to comment for Missy that if you're looking at things that are manifesting in real time, we have to remember it takes time for the Titanic to turn around, as that song says, although that was not a successful turnaround. But, it takes, if you've got something that you're overcoming, it's not necessarily going to go away tomorrow or today because it didn't take a day to manifest. It didn't take a day to develop. Didn't happen overnight. It's not going to go away overnight. But if you just continue, and like we say, John was saying, look at the end and go, in hindsight, as it were, to bring these things into our life, then yes, they are going to slowly turn around. Some maybe quickly, some might take some time, but
Well, I have a time limit. Maybe I'll call you later if that's okay.
sure,
We'll
that would
talk
be
it
great.
through because poor Bob is like, Bob is very positive about everything. So no, he's got no worries anymore. I'm the one in all the groups. He's the one, no worries. So,
Okay. Well,
I
thank you,
think I'll do
Virginia,
that
for
for
being a
Virginia.
friend and offering some attention on that. Good stuff. Anybody else? We're sharpening the saw. All right. So then I guess what we'll do is we'll wrap up with that. I am going to be back here with y'all tomorrow for a fun Friday. I might have this office set up by then. Probably not. I might. We'll see. You know what? I should affirm that I will. Ultimately, it will. I don't know how long it takes, but everything else comes first, and then my office will be last. Oh, and then the garage. The garage is last. Last is the garage. Once we're parking in the garage, now we know that we're moved in. So that's probably a week out. Anyway, I love you guys. Thank you for being here. Go sharpen the saw. Find some time today. It doesn't have to be, a day and a half trip to an ashram, but it could be, 15 minutes. It could be an hour, right? Do something for yourself today. Love you guys. We'll see you again here real soon.